Hello Commodore fans, I have here a brand new piece of hardware that came all the way from Poland. When I first heard about this a few weeks ago, I got an email from Weggy, who is the developer of this excellent CBM Asteroids game, and he said, hey, we got this new piece of hardware called the GangC64, you should check it out. And so I looked at the videos online, and after watching the videos I thought to myself, I have no idea what this thing is or what it can do, but I want to get one. So I replied to Weggy's email and said, hey, where do I send the money? And a week or so later, here it is. The first... Ooh, wow, look at that. Check it out. Very nice. Oh. Guess I should be wearing the t-shirt. Look at that. GangC64. Play game, make fun. Alright. It looks like they put together a very nice professional package here with the box with all kinds of information on it and shrink wrapped. So let's see what's inside. The first thing I notice here is that we've got a micro SD slot. So I think this cartridge is emulating, or it's providing the same functionality as the excellent SD to IEC disc adapter for the Commodore 64. And so unfortunately I do have a number of SD cards, but I don't have any micro SD cards, and so I'll have to buy one and to test out that functionality. But I see here from this little cheat sheet here, there's a special button for resetting the Commodore 64, which is a very nice functionality to have. There's buttons here for going to the next disc and the previous disc. And then there's a freeze button, so maybe you can pause games that don't otherwise have pause type functionality. And so I'm going to take the UK 1541 here out of this Commodore 64 and plug in the GangC64 cart and fire it up, see what it does. It looks like this cartridge has a couple of different modes in it. This is the default mode when you boot up the machine, and it's got some hotkeys to be able to list disk images which are on your micro SD card and select disk images to run games. But then it's got another mode which is explained right here. It's called the Final 3 Plus mode. So we push this button and that button and let go of that. And then it goes into this mode, which I've never seen this before, and I have no idea what this does, but obviously you've got some drop-down menus here. You can like enable and disable some like special functions, I think, and then run your games with like the joysticks swapped, or one of the sprites turned off or on, or auto fire turned on, something like that. And so that looks like some interesting functionality right there. And then to get back, we just push the same thing, push the buttons, and then now it's back up into the normal mode again. I just found a whole bunch more functionality in here. There's all these special commands that you can run by hitting this arrow key and then a letter and pressing return. And so to get the help menu, you hit the arrow, question mark, and press return. And so now this shows all of our F keys, what the function keys do. There's some left arrow commands here, and I see this great game, CBM Asteroids, is built into the ROM on the GangC64 cartridge, and so we can run it by pressing arrow A. And then there's another curious thing here. Arrow T is run test images from World of Johnny. And so we're going to try that in a minute. So let's run the test images here. Let's hit the arrow T and see. Oh, it looks like there's 4 different cartridges that we can run. There's a 1541 cartridge, there's a standard Commodore diagnostic cartridge, a couple of them, and then something called Dr. 64. So let's check out the Dr. 64. Copyright 1988, some kind of a test cartridge that somebody made back in the day, and it's embedded in this ROM inside of the GangC64 cartridge. And so this is extremely useful for diagnosing these machines. Ooh, it says my keyboard is bad. This is probably because I don't have special cables plugged in that have loopback connectors on them. Let's try the next one. Now it's time to play some asteroids. Let's hit arrow A. Check that out. Now I'm cheating here because I have a Gravis UltraPad which has a built-in auto-fire functionality. The main purpose of the GangC64 cartridge is to be able to take disk images, like disks for programs and games for the Commodore 64 that you can download from anywhere, and store them on a micro SD card and put that into the cartridge and browse through those disk images and mount the disk images so that you can play the games and run that software on your Commodore 64. However, there's a lot more functionality in this cartridge than just the stuff that's related to storing those disk images. It also has a bunch of disk images which are built into the ROM on the cartridge itself. And I just discovered you can run those by hitting arrow F. And looking through the list, I mean, there's a whole bunch of diagnostic stuff in here which is extremely useful, and then there's a bunch of games as well. So like, this is awesome. Like, there's joystick check program. It's loaded that into memory, and I type run, and there we go. This is port 2. See, and there's my auto fire. And this joystick is in port 1. So, yep, everything. I mean, that's a very nice diagnostic utility. And I thought, oh, it would be cool to explore some of these other games and programs on here and see what we got. Like, there's Pitfall. Like, Pitfall is awesome. I'll play Pitfall. That's great. It must be the other joystick port. Oh, maybe I have to hit F1 to start. Yep. There we go. This is a nice version of Pitfall, really. I just want to go through and explain all of the functionality that this GangC64 cartridge has based on, you know, what I can see from the rather extensive help menu here. So it explains, okay, we've got these function keys. Like, some of those function keys are for looking through disk images on the SD2IEC functionality. You can run the machine language monitor. You can disable the cartridge. You can take directories. Let's see, I'm not sure what these head fit and choose device, and it's got ROM images. So there's the CBM Asteroids ROM you can enable by hitting a key. There's all these other test images of these other test ROMs that you can enable. Then there's the file functionality. And so the file functionality, which I looked at before when I played Pitfall, it actually is not storing disk images, but it's storing like program files, and you can select, you know, one of those program files from the list of games and diagnostic software, and it loads that program into memory, and you just type run and you run it. There's the machine language monitor. There's some extensions to BASIC. There's some extra commands like getting a directory just by hitting $sign and restoring a program that you just deleted by typing new. And then there's these other commands, which are more basic extensions, like you can read the error channel off the disk drive, you can format a disk, you know, with these simplified commands instead of having to type out open 1,8,15 and all this thing, all that sort of stuff. There's also some command extensions, basic commands, to look through the directories of the micro SD card and look for disk images to mount. And then I think what this does is it says support fast load and save. And so I think the cartridge, that hardware, will emulate different types of disk drives. Like you can emulate the 1541, the 41.2, the 1570, the 1571. So if you're running a piece of software which uses a fast loader that worked for that specific drive, then it will emulate that drive, and hopefully that fast loader will work. Then this is the command reference for the machine language monitor, which is great if you're a hardcore hacker and you're, debugging some stuff. Some examples of the machine language monitor, and that's it. And so there's a ton of functionality that these guys have packed into this little cartridge, and so it's really quite an amazing device, and I would recommend it to anybody who's a Commodore 64 enthusiast. And I want to say thank you to Weggy and the GangC64 team for making this excellent device, and I'll definitely be using it. That's it for now. Bye.